Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the A segment of episode 40 of Codename Kids Next Door, Operation R.A.B.I.T. We begin this segment at Gallagher Elementary School, where we see number 2 running down one of the hallways. Number 5 is also with number 2. Number 5 tells number 2 that there's no need for them to rush to the cafeteria because they'll still make it in time for lunch if they simply walk to the cafeteria. But number 2 admits that he's in a hurry because it's chocolate pudding day, and he decides to go through the first grade hallway as a shortcut to the cafeteria. Once number 2 and number 5 arrive at the first grade hallway, they notice that it's in very bad condition, to say the least. The lights are flickering on and off, some of them are even falling apart, the doors look to be unhinged, and the floor has many cracks in it. Essentially, the first grade hallway resembles a wasteland, and we also see that the first graders are wearing ragged clothing. Number 2 makes a comment about brutal school budget cuts, but number 5 suspects that something else is up. Soon enough, number 2 says that maybe taking the long way to the cafeteria isn't a bad idea after all. But then number 2 and number 5 are greeted by a first grade boy. He seems to recognize them actually, and he encourages them to enter one of the classrooms so that they can talk. The first grade boy's name isn't mentioned at this point in time in the segment, but his name is mentioned later on. His name sounds like Simi. So Simi explains to number 2 and number 5 that the first graders have been expecting them because of a prophecy that was told earlier in the morning during arts and crafts class, to be more specific. He then shows them a drawing of number 2 and number 5 with a white rabbit. Simi explains that the first grade hallway is in bad condition right now because someone has kidnapped Mr. Fluffleupagus, the first grade class pet, who is a white rabbit. And the kidnapper has taken Mr. Fluffleupagus to the deepest parts of the jungle gym at the upper playground. Simi essentially describes the situation as when the kidnapper kidnapped Mr. Fluffleupagus, the kidnapper had essentially kidnapped the heart of the first grade. But the first graders' confidence have been renewed because the prophecy says that number 2 and number 5 are the ones who will rescue Mr. Fluffleupagus from the kidnapper. Number 2 says that they will help the first graders out, but he wants to get some lunch first. Number 5 is insistent that they help the first graders now, and she inquires them about who the kidnapper is exactly. Simi admits that the kidnapper never actually revealed his name to them, but he gave them a small piece of candy as payment in a mocking manner. We then cut to a jungle where we see Heinrich Von Marzipan and his candy soldiers navigating this jungle. They also have Mr. Fluffleupagus in a cage. Soon enough, a first grade girl named Jessica runs up to Heinrich. She's also holding a stuffed bunny toy that she calls Hopsy Mopsy. Jessica explains that the temple is very close from where they are right now, and she's hopeful that Heinrich will keep his word and not do anything to Hopsy Mopsy. Heinrich assures Jessica that he will keep his word, and then he orders his candy soldiers to hurry up. They're almost at their destination. On the playground, we see number 2 and number 5 are about to enter the jungle gym, and number 2 is still grumbling about not being able to have lunch yet because he thinks there's no sense in starting a mission on an empty stomach. But number 5 says that it's important that they help the first graders sooner rather than later. She also answers number 2's questions about how deep this jungle gym goes by admitting that no one really knows the answer to that. Without further delay, number 2 and number 5 enter the jungle gym, And as they go deeper into the jungle gym, it starts to look more like an actual jungle. Eventually, number 2 and number 5 see a volcano, and they hear noise coming from the summit of this volcano, so they rush off to see what this noise is exactly. On the summit of the volcano, we see Hopsy Mopsy is in a cage that's attached to chains that are attached to some wheels, with the intent of, the intent of the wheel is to lower the chains so that the cage will enter the volcano. Jessica is upset, commenting about how Heinrich broke his word about not doing anything to Hopsy Mopsy. Heinrich admits that this isn't the first time that he's lied to others, and he proceeds to instruct his candy soldiers to begin the test ritual. So one of the candy soldiers starts to turn the wheel to lower the chains of the cage into the volcano. And we see that this volcano is not an ordinary volcano. It's a chocolate volcano. Heinrich describes the chocolate volcano as being the most delicious chocolate on Earth. And he wants Hopsy Mopsy to be the test subject for what he has in plan, what his real plans are. So Hopsy Mopsy is the test subject. So after Hopsy Mopsy is dipped into the chocolate volcano and pulled back up, Hopsy Mopsy is now covered in chocolate, and Heinrich proceeds to eat one of Hopsy Mopsy's ears, much to Jessica's dismay. And Heinrich enjoys the taste. He comments about how delicious Hopsy Mopsy tastes as a chocolate bunny, but then he comments if a stuffed bunny toy tasted delicious after becoming a chocolate bunny, just imagine how delicious a real bunny will taste once the real bunny is dipped into the chocolate volcano. So yes, Heinrich wants to turn Mr. Fluffleupagus into a chocolate bunny. Number 2 and number 5 see the test ritual from the other side of the volcano. And we also see number 2 is tying a rope around himself and a smaller rock. Number 5 figures that number 2 is going to cause a distraction, so that number 5 decides that while number 2 distracts Heinrich and his candy soldiers, number 5 will try and free Mr. Fluffleupagus. But after number 5 goes off to another part of the volcano summit, number 2 admits that he wanted to try and get a taste of the chocolate volcano. So Mr. Fluffleupagus is now in the cage, and Heinrich wants the ritual to begin. So one of the candy soldiers is turning the lever so that Mr. Fluffleupagus is being lowered into the chocolate volcano. But during the ritual, Heinrich notices number 2, who is trying to scoop up some of the chocolate into a cup, and he orders his candy soldiers to attack number 2. During the attack, number 2 ends up on top of the cage that Mr. Fluffleupagus is in, and the cage is getting closer to the chocolate part of the volcano. But then at one point, the cage is starting to be brought back up. And when Heinrich turns around to see what's going on, he sees number 5 has knocked out the candy soldier who was turning the lever, and she's trying to turn it the other way. Heinrich proceeds to attack number 5 with a lollipop machine gun, but number 5 is able to counter, and during the fight, the rest of the candy soldiers are rendered unconscious as well. Heinrich grumbles about how they're fired now, and one of the lollipops actually gets stuck in the wheels to prevent the cage from going further into the chocolate volcano. During the fight, though, number 5 ends up falling on top of the cage that number 2 is on top of just after he freed Mr. Fluffleupagus from the inside. So the 2 Sector V operatives and Mr. Fluffleupagus are still in danger of falling into the chocolate volcano. The cage is like right here, and the chocolate is right there, so they have to be very careful. Unfortunately for them, Heinrich is preparing to release the Yes, he's preparing to release the lollipop that's jammed into the wheels, so that he can fully dip them into chocolate. He also admits that while he's always dreamed of making chocolate bunnies from real bunnies, he now decides he wants to try a chocolate Kids Next Door operative. But before Heinrich can actually before Heinrich can destroy the lollipop that's jamming the gear wheels, Jessica jumps towards Heinrich, and Heinrich starts to stumble backwards and he starts to lose his balance. Soon enough, Heinrich fully loses his balance and he falls into the chocolate volcano. Jessica notices that the lollipop is starting to break, the lollipop that's trapped in the gear wheels. So she takes the broken lever and she jams it into the gear wheels to prevent number 2, number 5, and Mr. Fluffleupagus from falling into the chocolate volcano. But during the process, she also noticed that Hopsy Mopsy fell into the chocolate volcano. So with the gear wheels jammed again, number 2, number 5, and Mr. Fluffleupagus start to climb up the chains so that they can reach the summit of the volcano again. And number 5 reveals that she managed to catch Hopsy Mopsy before the stuffed bunny toy fell into the chocolate volcano. So yes, Jessica is happy about that. So number 2, number 5, Jessica and Mr. Fluffleupagus return to the main part of the playground where the rest of the first graders are waiting for them. Simi comments about how the water from the water fountain started to operate again, so that was a sign to them that they were on their way back. Jessica also takes a moment to apologize for helping Heinrich, admitting that it was a bad idea to help Heinrich out. Afterwards, Mr. Fluffleupagus taps his ear, or one of his ears, onto Simi after Simi holds Mr. Fluffleupagus. And then suddenly, the first graders are restored to... the first graders are now wearing normal clothing again. They're not ragged clothing anymore. And Hopsy Mopsy actually changes back to a stuffed bunny toy. And the ear that was bitten off by Heinrich is restored as well. And yes, the first graders are no longer in the bad condition that they were in earlier. And Simi makes a comment that this is the power of Mr. Fluffleupagus. Number 2 then decides to make a joke where he says he's so hungry it's not even bunny instead of it's not even funny. And number 5 whacks number 2 with her hat, commenting about how it's the lamest joke she heard him say. So she starts to chase after number 2 while the first graders begin to play on the playground. Yes, the first graders are playing on the playground as number 5 chases after number 2, saying that she's going to stop him from making more lame jokes. But then back at the chocolate volcano, we see a chocolate hand emerging from the chocolate volcano. Then on the wall, we see Heinrich's shadow. So we don't see Heinrich himself, we only see his shadow, and he lets out an evil laugh. And that's how we end this segment. So there you go. This is the A segment for the Season 4 premiere of Codename Kids Next Door. And the Season 4 premiere of Codename Kids Next Door actually broke some trends or traditions that the first 3 season premieres featured. In the first 3 season premieres, in the first 3 seasons, the season premieres featured all of the Sector V operatives present, and the villain, or the focus villain of each season premiere in season 1, 2, and 3 were new villains that debuted in that particular season. Season 4's premiere breaks this trend because only number 2 and number 5 are present in this segment, and the villain of this segment is actually a villain from a previous season, in this case Heinrich Von Marzipan, who first appeared in season 3. And yes, like Operation Jules, Heinrich's first appearance, this is another this is another segment or another entry that's about number 5's candy-themed adventures. In this case, though, it's about a chocolate volcano. And yes, this is another candy-themed adventure that's meant to be an affectionate parody or an affectionate homage to the Indiana Jones movies. The difference here compared to Operation Flavor and Operation Jules is that number 5 is actually accompanied by one of her teammates, in this case, number 2. And yes, so this is the first time where one of the other Sector V operatives besides number 5 encountered Heinrich von Marzipan, even though all the Sector V operatives did appear in Operation Jules. They never actually encountered Heinrich. So yes, number 5 and number 2 work together in this segment, and they save the first grade class pet, Mr. Fluffleupagus. And see me as the leader of the first graders, this does get addressed again, or this is brought back up in a later entry. Season 5, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, in a Season 5 entry, Simi is actually revealed to be the first grade class president. We actually will get to meet all of the class presidents for 1st through 5th grade, so all the class presidents at Gallagher Elementary School. We've met James Nixon McGarfield, aka Jimmy, for the 4th grade, and we've met Simi in this segment, so yes, we will get to see the other class presidents of Gallagher Elementary School in time. Oh, and yes, speaking of Heinrich, yes, this segment continues Heinrich von Marzipan's storyline, which started in Operation Jules, and the segment does end on a cliffhanger with Heinrich emerging from the chocolate volcano. And yes, as you can imagine, Heinrich's next appearance will show us what exactly happened to Heinrich after he emerged from the chocolate volcano. And I did mention this before. Heinrich actually has 2 major appearances in Season 4, so it will be in this season when we do get to see the continuation to this particular entry. It's in Season 4. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Heinrich has 1 major appearance in Season 5 and 1 major appearance in Season 6. But like I said, this continues Heinrich's storyline, so we'll be sure to go into greater detail about Heinrich's storyline as we cover the recap and thoughts videos for those particular entries. Now, the other detail is, yes, number 2 and number 5. Number 2 and number 5 are a popular pairing among fans of the franchise, at least from what I've observed. And many fans do notice that the show's hints about the number 2 and number 5 pairing, or the Hoagie and Abby pairing, those hints seem to be much more subtle compared to the Kooky and Wally pairing hints. Some fans actually said that hints about the Hoagie and Abby pairing could be seen as a rewatch bonus in comparison to Kooky and Wally pairing hints. So yeah, that's another detail that, yes, I'm sure the Hoagie and Abby fans enjoyed this segment. I'm sure they enjoyed this segment quite a bit. And otherwise, yeah, I think that might be about it for this particular entry. So, like I mentioned, this entry continues the tradition of having number 5 go on a candy-themed adventure that's meant to be an affectionate parody of the Indiana Jones movies. This time, she actually has one of her teammates joining her on this particular adventure. And it also continues the storyline with Heinrich von Marzipan, ending with a notable cliffhanger. And yes, the other big detail is we get to meet the 1st grade class president of Gallagher Elementary School. So otherwise, I believe that's about it for this particular entry. So as of this video, we've now discussed the A segment of episode 40 of Codename Kids Next Door on this channel. Take care, and until next time.